Welcome to the Frictionless Innkeeper podcast. Coming right up, fresh tips and insights from lodging professionals aimed at helping you improve your business. Our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest App, which helps improve your guest stay without adding more to your day. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com.
How you doing there, Steve?
Doing well, Matt. How about you?
Doing well. So this next podcast interview here is with Rita Sleys, who is the owner and operator of the Rosemont Inn Bed Breakfast. And all I can say, it's a transformational story right here.
It is. It's a transformation as far as, well, the physical transformation of her property, the renovating of things and getting a whole new look. But I think maybe the deeper human interest part of this is the fact that she was pretty much rejuvenated her career as an innkeeper, having done it for quite a while, just not having any real success, but then accepting the fact that she needed outside help and, matching up with the right person for her. And then, kind of using that perspective, the coaching. And it's, we're talking like 2 to 3 times occupancy and income and everything, just really in a matter of 3 years. And that's COVID in between there. So it's really like 2 years, basically. So that's a pretty phenomenal story. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really is a great story. We hope you all enjoyed this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Rita Sleys, the owner and operator of the Rosemont Inn Bed Breakfast. And Rita and Steve, how you both doing today?
Terrific.
Awesome. Steve, how are you?
I'm fine as usual, Matt.
That's good. Well, welcome. And Rita, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. And let's really start at the top. If you don't mind, tell us about your background, how you became an innkeeper and all that good stuff.
In 2002, my husband and I were living in the rural South. He worked for the Vanguard Group, and it had been a big cross-country move for us, which we had done once before in our lives. And we just were not really fitting into the culture of the South. We were really struggling with trying to make friends. He wasn't enjoying his job. So he started to look for another job, and he's a computer programmer. It wasn't going well for him. And so he said to me, "Remember, we always talked about having an inn when we were older, or a bed and breakfast?" And I was like, well, yeah, 39 was not my idea of older when we were having those conversations. We've been together forever, since like high school. So we've talked about a lot of things for many, many years. But nevertheless, it took us 2 years, but we did pick this inn here in Utica, the Rosemont, and we bought the place. And we kind of were struggling along for quite a few years, ups and downs, lots of downs, led to the point of filing bankruptcy in 2010 or 12. I can't even remember because it just dragged on for a long time. And so we hung on through all of that. And long about that time, 2015 or so, my 2 adult daughters started working with me, and I felt like things were going better. I was really getting a fresh input of young energy, and things were going better. And by the time we got to 2019, I just was feeling like I really want this to work out, but I know that I need some help. So we had started out in 2019 redecorating, tearing off all the old wallpapers that we had, lightening and brightening, kind of modernizing some things in the public areas. And I had said something that we had talked about for 5 years. I said, well, this year we're getting a new bathroom, because we had bought the place with clawfoot tubs and ring showers. And we always knew that we needed to do that, but obviously it's a very expensive proposition. So it kept dragging on. And every year it was like, no, we can't afford to do this. But 2019, I was like, we're doing a shower this year. And my daughter and my husband were both like, well, how are we going to do that? I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do it. I just know I'm ready for something different this year. So that was the year that we went to the conference in April, my daughter and I, and we met Randy, and everything just broke wide open and total transformation.
All right. So let's step back for a minute here. So first off, because that's a lot of years in that time span, but your B&B is located in Utica, New York, right?
Yes.
So just to give people perspective on that, how would you, it's not a destination type spot, right?
Not a destination. Utica is a small, what would be called a Rust Belt city. So it was a very big, very populated, lots of activity during the Industrial Revolution and really up through the 50s. And then in the 60s and 70s, people just started leaving these cities. It happened, like I said, all over Ohio, Massachusetts, New York. It's not an atypical place. But our decision to come here was based on the fact that we could afford a building of this size. We have a 7-room inn, and then we had a 3-bedroom owner's quarters. Because at the time that we bought the inn, we had 5 children. And just because God has a sense of humor, we had a 6th shortly thereafter. So we really thought that part of our life was over. That was one of the reasons why we went ahead and moved into the inn, and, moved on with the thought of the inn. But then we just did everything. So it's been a kind of a wild ride. And I think probably, to be honest, it was overwhelming for me. And it was too many things going on at one time with 6 kids, trying to run a business, trying to stay married, trying to, learn new things. It was too many things. But like I said, we hung on here. And by the time everyone was sort of more grown up, I was ready for something different. Utica is not a destination, though.
Right. And I have not been to Utica, so I don't know what the town's like, but looking at your property, I mean, it's an amazing looking property. I mean, it's an incredible brick, Italianate, high style, and what would be called 2.5 stories, maybe?
No, we have 3 full stories.
So 3, okay.
Yeah.
It's got kind of those half windows at the top that I love that a lot of Italianate places have. So yeah, obviously there was some wealth in the town at one time when these places were being built.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you say, it's not a destination type place. So, okay. Now, and then you mentioned Randy, which, we know Randy, you're referring to Randy Bangs, right? And the infamous Randy Bangs, who's been on our podcast before. And yeah, so talk about how you said conference, was it, let's see, 2019, either PI or...
It was AIAH.
rather. There's so stuff in ALP now.
Yeah, it's out now, but it was AIAH at the time. But what I was going to say was that
was Cincinnati then.
That was Cincinnati, correct.
Okay. That was our first time at a trade show, and it was AHP.
That's right. That was Cincinnati, and that was my daughter's first time going to a conference. But I just feel like it was the mindset shift for me in early 2019 when I said, things have to be different around here. We're going to do things differently. That kind of got me to a place where I was ready to meet Randy, and I was ready to do that because I said to my daughter at the time was working with me and kind of becoming my partner. Bob had gone on and was working on his own business, which he still has, computer consulting business. So she and I were mostly working together. And I said, I want to set us up to go to this conference. And she said, Mom, we can't afford to go to that conference. She's looking at how much it's going to cost. And I'm like, we can't afford not to go. We have to get some new energy. And I said, I want you to, get a perspective on this. So we went to the conference and we were walking around the trade show, and I don't remember why we stopped to talk to Randy, but it worked out and we talked to Randy. So we were having some good conversation with him. We really connected with him right away. And he was immediately looked up our website, and he's looking through, and he was really brutally honest. He was like, well, you got conditioning issues. You have to redecorate. Men don't like flowers. You need men business travelers, because we just talked about, we're not in a destination area, but we do get a lot of business travelers. So he's like, you have to do a lot of work here in order to get this better. At the same time, I found that refreshing. So Grace and I walked away, and we were doing the rest of the trade show thing, and we really liked him. And he came around a second time, and he was like, oh my goodness, I want to catch you too and say, I'm so sorry. I'm from Connecticut. I live in Wisconsin now. My wife's always telling me I'm too forward. I'm like, no, I'm from New Jersey. Like, this works for me. I'm glad, give it to me straight. I'm glad that you said what you said. And I said, we agree with that. We're just trying to think about how we could make this work, because we don't know how we could make this work right now. But we agree with you that we want to do that. And we really think we want to work with you. So we scheduled for him to come and meet with us. But as I always say, we were talking about personal transformation, business transformation. The personal transformation has to come before anything. Other kind of transformation is going to be real. And it's going to be something that you might want to say sticks or, takes hold. So like I said, I feel like in 2019, because I really shifted my perspective, I was ready to see that. I was ready to meet him. I was ready for some help. And so I could see that and kind of lock into that.
Yeah. So there's the side that says, okay, you got to remodel, renovate, whatever. But there's kind of your personal rejuvenation part of this as well. Yeah. Let's talk about the I guess maybe the remodeling part of it first, or maybe they go hand in hand. What was the need? I mean, your revenues just where they needed to be, right?
Oh, no, not at all. No.
So you felt the need. It's not just, hey, this place is looking the same way as when we bought it. We just got to clean it up. It was more of a market-driven concept or perspective that said, okay, if we're going to get, to use Randy's company's phrase, heads in beds, right? If we're going to get heads in beds, then here's what we need to do, right? I mean, you were looking at it from that perspective. And then, so how do you figure out what it needs to look like and what else you have to do other than just remodeling? How did you decide what to do and how to do it?
That was where hiring Randy was really, really key. So we went ahead. Randy came and did a site visit. We met with him, we worked things out, agreed to set up. He usually does a 1-year contract, but because we had condition issues and we had things we had to work on before we could really start putting into place his own plans that he usually gives to clients, we set up a 2-year contract with him. So we had started, whatever it was, end of April, May, and we had started working on that's what he said. The first thing is like, you just have to redecorate the rooms. And I said, well, I've thought about redecorating the rooms, but without updating the baths, I felt like it wasn't really going to be worth it. And he said, no, it's going to work. It's going to be worth it. You have to do this. So that was the first one, because I kept talking myself out of doing any kind of redecorating, because I thought without updating baths and getting more modern showers, who's going to care about the decorating? Well, I was totally wrong about that. The decorating highly influences everyone. But so Randy really helped with that. He's like, you need to come up with an aesthetic that's going to be appealing to men. So men don't like flowers. So you need to think about that. He said, you want to kind of go with just neutral colors. You're trying to sell this room. A lot of times, my daughter had said the same thing. It's not even like selling a house. It's like, you've got to sell this hundreds of times every year. So you've got to come up with some kind of aesthetic that appeals to you, but at the same time is going to appeal to lots of people when they see the picture. So lots of neutrals, lots of layers of neutrals. And he had given us an example of, it's another bed and breakfast here. I've forgotten the name of it. I want to say it's the Gables. It's actually here. It's in the Finger Lakes in New York State. But he said, well, here's an example of some really great decorating. I worked with this woman. Just study this and kind of, work off of this and figure it out. And for me, I'm a natural cook. I am not a natural decorator. I like decorating. I like colors. I like designing, but it's not something that comes easily or naturally to me. So I was a little bit nervous, and we had redecorated one room quite a few years back. And based on the length of time that took, I thought, okay, 7 guest rooms is going to take me 2 years to rotate through and just do one at a time and redecorate all these rooms. But with Randy's help and encouragement and him really saying, I know you could do this. You're going to be able to figure this out. I know you are. And I'm like, okay. And we got all our redecorating done in 3 months. Now, I did not do that myself. My husband helped a lot. My daughter, Grace, was here helping. I had a young woman that worked for me at the time, and I had a teen daughter here. All of them were instrumental in doing everything. But in terms of the design, my daughter, Grace, and I picked out everything. And the other thing that I feel like was good for us is we had 7 rooms, and we had an overall theme for all of the rooms and everything. And so a couple times we had picked out a carpet or something, and we thought that these things were going to go together, and we put them in the first room where we started, and we're like, oh, this is not working. It's too many things that are
flashy.
Yeah, flashy or strong elements. So it's a good idea to have one strong element, but when you have 2 or 3 strong elements, then you walk into the room and you're going, I don't know where I'm supposed to look. This is confusing. I'm not sure how this works. So we had a couple things like that, but because we have 7 rooms, we're like, oh, well, wait, we could shift this here and then make this part of our design in this room. And we can work off that because we had picked out things that we liked. We didn't have a problem with things coming and going, ooh, we hate this. We liked it. We just didn't like it together with the other things that we had picked. So I felt like that was helpful to have the 7 rooms and as opposed to just 1.
Yeah, just get it right by the 6th or 7th because you don't have any more rooms left.
That's right. Well, we have a couple things still left over actually, but that's okay. Because we're finding places for those too. So.
And you also did the main kind of public spaces as well. Is that right?
Yes, we had done those early. We had done early on, we did the public spaces.
Okay.
The space that I'm sitting in now, you had commented that you said you thought that this was old, the flower stencil, the gray stencil on light gray paint. But what we had in here was dark burgundy wallpaper with a heavy floral pattern that had 8 or 9 colors in it. So this is a huge change. It's much lighter, much brighter. And I didn't want it to be like extremely modern. I wanted it to be skew modern, but still have like a little bit of a Victorian feel to it, kind of Victorian light, maybe we could call it.
Yeah. And you had a lot of Victorian furniture, right?
Yeah.
So you can still leverage that, but keep things, like you say, more neutral and lighter in terms of the colors and the overall theme, I guess. Right.
And that's what we did is we brought in we have some end tables that are very Victorian, just some other little pieces here and there, furniture in the guest rooms that are Victorian. And then anything that was kind of a big piece that really just screamed Victorian, they're in the dining room or they're in the, on the second floor landing. We took one piece and we're using it as a buffet. We're using it as a coffee station for the guests. But because it's not so in your face like it was before Victorian and quite so heavy and so crowded, we've gotten tremendous feedback from people where they're like, wow, I like that it's got a modern feel, but it's not like everything's gray and everything's sleek and everything's, just kind of doesn't have any personality to it. So like I said, we wanted to have a little bit of a Victorian feel to it yet still, but not quite as heavy.
So the first step was remodeling the rooms, but you didn't get to the bathrooms yet, right? So
we got started. The first bathroom got finished because we made a plan for it. And God bless my mother-in-law. We were able to borrow some money from my mother-in-law, and that's how we financed this project. So we did get one bathroom done. I want to say it was September 2019. By September, October 2019, we had a bathroom done, which was amazing because, like I said, my husband and my daughter and a couple of other people did most of the work, but I was responsible, like I said, with my daughter Grace, who worked with me at the time for the design. So that was even more important to kind of come up with a timeless design that was going to be appealing to a lot of people, but also I didn't want it to scream 2019, 2020. I wanted it to just be like classic 20 years from now. It's still going to look very timely and not like it came from a certain period and it's looking outdated. So it's just black and white. It's very, very basic, but it definitely has a Victorian feel to it. And as I said, we've had a lot of great feedback from the guests on the showers as well.
Okay. So you get this work done on the bedroom by end of summer, I guess, of 2019.
Yes.
Then, of course, we hit COVID. So 2020 is not really a good measure.
No, but even in 2019, by August, so besides all the decorating, we redid our website. As I said, my husband is a computer programmer and he's done web design and stuff. So we did our own web design, but we did have professional photography taken also on Randy's recommendation. And that was huge. We worked with Tom Kruger and we really loved him. He's fantastic. So that also, I think, made a huge difference in the presentation and in the website. And so we did a few other things that Randy asked us to do, launched our website in August, and we immediately started seeing more guests. So 2019, we were closed for like so long, or we had hardly anybody here, obviously, because we were remodeling, decorating, this, that, and the other thing. But even in 2019, we had for us what would be a decent year. We made $90,000, which was incredible. The year before, we had made like 78. So the fact that we had been closed for such a long period of time and we were able to make that much money definitely goes to credit for Randy. And then, yes, 2020 came, it was going well. January was, picked up, February, and then it just obviously, like for everybody, totally dropped off.
But the increases prior to COVID, I mean, that's what you did. You remodeled, got this whole new look, and then you showed that look on your through your website.
Exactly.
Right? There wasn't any other marketing type stuff that would attribute or you could attribute to this. It wasn't like you started using a whole new booking system.
Nope.
Or different marketing online or whatever.
No, we had a good booking system. The main thing that Randy really directed us into, which was he's had several people call me to refer. And I always say to them, look, you've got to trust him because what we started with to actually get more visibility and get things really kind of picking up was we started by lowering our rates, which was kind of a little bit scary. It's like, how do you lower your rates if you want to make more money? But it was getting the visibility. So it's a strategy. and it works. But as I said, it's one of those things where for me, it took a lot of trust to say, okay, I'm going to say that I believe that you know what you're doing and you've done this before and you've helped other people, but this doesn't sound right. I'm feeling kind of nervous, but I really trusted him. We all did. And it was working out. It did work out.
So yeah, you get the people in, you get the buzz, you get people recommending and giving great ratings. Then once you get a certain critical mass, then you can probably start increasing your rate.
I'm at the critical mass this year.
Yeah.
Right. Segue through 2020. Like I said, it would have happened sooner, but segue through 2020. So we're on year 3 here. Now it's happening. This summer, I was selling out all my rooms so quickly. So this past summer, like July, I started to really incrementally raise my rates. I'm examining that, but I'm still selling out. So I'm not overpriced.
Yeah. And I mean, basically, I think I scribbled down some numbers from when we talked before. It looks like, again, 2020 is kind of an anomaly, but 2021, you basically doubled your revenues. And it looks like your increases this year is probably 30 to 40% going to be this year, it sounds like.
Yes,
right?
I'm on track to, like I said, we made 90,000 in 2019. 2020 obviously doesn't count, but we doubled our income in 2022. At this point, we are almost triple our occupancy. And like I said, I'm looking at easily breaking 200,000 this year. I think I'm going to make 220 this year.
Wow, that's a huge
yeah. So that's like a total game changer, right? That changes your life. That's nowhere near making $78,000. Now, of course, my expenses have increased, like it's not like you do that for 1 year and all your problems are solved. It's not like fairy dust, wave a magic wand. So we are working our way through managing our increases, having more people working for us. I already told you I had an assistant and she walked out at the end of July. So like I'm working 7 days a week now, but I know that that's temporary and I'm getting set up with someone else to begin here in September. That's where the personal development comes in, right? That's where you have to say, I can do this. I can do this for a while. I can't work 7 days a week for the next, 2 years or 1 year or even 6 months, but I can do this for a little while because I'm looking at my end game and I'm looking at where I'm going. And I know I want to get there. And I know that I deserve to get there. And so I'm going to hang on and I'm going to do whatever it takes for this short amount of time, a month or 2 months. I can do anything for a month or 2 months and then it's going to get better. But I've got the thought that like, if you're making lots of money, you have no problems. You just have better problems. You get upgraded problems. But for me, I'd rather have the upgraded problems, but you have to be ready for that. I think so many people just think like, if this happened, if that happened, or, whatever, relationships, if I met the right person, everything would be great. It's like, no, even if you quote unquote meet the right person, you're still going to have to work on that. So I feel like I have all my structures in place to make money here at the end, but I've still got to then contribute. I've got to keep learning. I've got to keep growing. I've got to keep expanding. And I have to have confidence to believe that I can do that. And then I'm going to be able to figure it out as new things come up.
So yeah, talk about kind of the lessons learned, with this whole journey since 2019. I mean, yeah, it was remodeling, but again, it was more like kind of rejuvenating your career, your perspective on being an innkeeper and being professional and all these things. So talk about what you learned through that, not through the decorating side of it, through the personal side of it.
I think for me, the process was about you don't know what you don't know. So there's tremendous value in hiring a coach, a mentor, a consultant who has done the things that you want to do and that you connect with. So this was the other thing for me that I felt like it took me a long time to give myself permission to say, I am only going to work with people that I like. So I had tried to hire marketing people. I had tried to hire other marketing companies who I'm sure are wonderful. I'm saying no bad against them. People that I had met at other conferences. I just didn't like them. I didn't connect with them. I didn't have a personal connection, but I kept telling myself, oh, well, but this person knows what they're doing. They know about marketing. They know stuff you don't know. So you should listen to them. And I feel like maybe this is like a family influence or something, from the past, but maybe a lot of us have this. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what they told me to do because I didn't like them and I didn't trust them and I didn't connect with them. I immediately liked and trusted Randy. And I feel like in 2019, because I had shifted my perspective, I gave myself permission to say, it's okay for me to only work with people that I like. And it's okay for me to not like certain people and not want to work with them. And that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm being unkind to them. It just means we're not connecting. We're not connecting with the right kind of energy. And so to any aspirings or anybody else who maybe is struggling, I feel like I wish I had done this so much sooner. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would just be like, yeah, hire someone to help you right at the beginning, because you don't even know what you don't know. You don't even know what questions to ask. You don't even know what you should be thinking about, because obviously I was passionate. I always loved serving people. I loved cooking. I loved a lot of things that go with innkeeping, but in terms of marketing and selling and trying to figure all that out, I didn't know anything. So that would be my one thing. And so I feel like the change for me was just that working with Randy, I just really got a lot of confidence. And I felt like, wow, okay, I really can do this. I can be successful, but I needed that help. I needed that being able to have someone kind of walk me through, hold my hand. And like I said, be an encouragement and help me get things done. Like I said, 10 times faster than I would have if I didn't have a coach, if I didn't have someone working with me. And I don't know if I ever would have gotten to this point without Randy.
But you also, I think, made a good point early off, which is you'd had these challenges and these struggles for so long that part of it is probably having to come to the realization that things aren't going to get better unless something changes, right? And if I can't be the change agent or whatever you want to call it, then I've got to find someone who is. And so you became open to that from being beaten down all these years, right? But again, at the same time, it has to be somebody you trust and you believe in, or else you're not going to follow through probably on the recommendations, because if you think, oh, well, this person doesn't really know what they're talking about, or I just, I don't believe it. Because like you said, it took a leap of faith to do certain things like lowering your prices that he was telling you to do. He was suggesting you do that. You're not going to do that. You're going to push back if you don't really trust or feel like this is the right person. Sounds like for other innkeepers, for other property owners, sounds to me like they have to believe that it's time for a change first, and then they have to find the right fit.
Absolutely. That's what I would say. And obviously, Randy is not going to be a good fit for everyone, but he was perfect for us because, like I said, I really connect with everything that he does. And also, I just feel like he was coming at it from a different perspective. His price structure was really important to us as well, because he works off a commission. So if we weren't making any extra money, he wasn't going to get paid. So that was another thing that really sold it for me. It was like, okay, wow, I don't owe him anything unless I'm making more money. Okay, yeah, sign me up. Very few people do that, but that's how confident he is in his model and that he is going to be able to help you. And that's really what he wants to do. So that was the other thing that was a big push for me. But yes, it's definitely been a transforming experience going through with it. And I would highly recommend it.
And on the remodeling kind of guest facing side, whether it's website remodeling or whatever, what are some of the things that you would suggest to other innkeepers that you learned from this process? You talked about Tom Kruger. I mean, it doesn't have to be Tom, right? It's professional photography.
Yeah, professional photography, but more than that, someone who knows how to photograph inns. And that is so, so important. And I didn't realize how important that was until I worked with Tom. We did have we had some professional photos taken many, many years before when we first got here. But Tom's ability just to stage things, to really create a scene that the guest can see themselves in. I think that is a skill, and it's like so many things. It's not something you can cut and weigh and measure. It's just like, I think it's Tom's experience. We were laughing because he said, yeah, I started out taking internet pictures of toilet seats. And I was like, okay, wow, if you could make a toilet seat look good, he was working for some international bath company or whatever when he first started on the internet taking pictures. And I was like, yeah, if you can make that look good, you can make our guest rooms look good. But that's the thing, is just for him, with his experience of moving into inns and really specializing on that, and just the way that he was setting things up, things that he was doing, things that he was, he had me go out and get a bunch of stuff because as I said, we had just finished decorating. So we didn't have our little finishing pillows, whatever. We don't have too many of those things, but just a few of those things completely changes it. And so he would be like, okay, I need you to go get this. I need you to go get that. And I was running out and getting things. But when we were done, as I said, I think it's just it's that feeling that people can look at that picture and think, oh, I could see myself in that spot. And not everybody can do that. I had another local professional photographer come because I wanted to get started as we got more of our bathrooms remodeled. I wanted to get some bathroom pictures, but I was like, nope. He's a good photographer for a lot of other things, but he's not making this room look inviting. He's not making it look like someplace that I want to go, that I can see myself in. It's another one of those kind of intangible things that I can't really put my finger on.
Yeah, I didn't think about the staging. You're right. I mean, that's for selling houses, right? There are people who do staging. So yeah, interesting. Makes sense. What else? Any other advice to other innkeepers who are saying, well, I feel like there needs to be a redo of my property and my design and remodeling and all that. Any other suggestions on that?
Yeah, my biggest suggestion, like I said, is hire a coach, a consultant, someone that can encourage you along the way. Because I think that we can get to a certain point on our own, but we can go much further if someone else is there kind of giving insight, giving encouragement, giving their wisdom of what they've done and what they know works. Because I do think it is a specific thing. And as my daughter said, and I think Randy might have said it too, if you remodeling your house to sell, you have to sell it one time. You're trying to sell this room hundreds of times every year. So there is kind of like psychology behind it. There is. And this is something that I say to people all the time, and I'm actually putting it on my training documents now. My favorite quote is from Maya Angelou. People will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And so much about innkeeping and sales and so many things, but I mean, we're talking about the guest experience. So many things about the guest experience. How am I making this person feel? And that definitely, how does the room make them feel? Does it have a romantic feel? Because I remember this was years back, and I don't know who this was. This is totally anonymous, but on the Facebook page or innkeeper board, whatever we had years ago, someone had redecorated a room and they were like, well, no one's renting this. We just totally ridiculous. We spent tons of money. And so the person put up pictures and other people were commenting like, well, okay, it's new, but it looks an awful lot like a little girl's room. The bed's white. It's got tiny print. The color you put on the wall, the accents that you've chosen, it doesn't look like a romantic couple room. Like I don't walk in the room and go, oh, I'm feeling romantic. I walk in and go, oh, yeah, it feels kind of like a little girl's room. But again, there's different ways of doing that. So as I said, you can go super sleek and totally modern if you want to do that. That's not my taste at all. So I had to find a way to make it palatable to me, but also appealing to the guests. And that was just a lot of trial and error and subtle things and learning. Like I said, when he sent us to the website, my daughter and I kind of deduced it down of lots of neutrals, different textures to make it interesting, and then one or maybe two tiny pops of color so that it's not boring. You don't want it to be like oatmeal where everything is just blah. And it's all, and you see rooms like this all the time. You want something that gives it just a little bit of over the top. So that was our formula. And we kept on kind of working with that. Textures, all neutrals, and then one thing that's just a pop that sort of gives it a little interest. And we just had tremendous feedback from the guests. And as I said, for us, it was economy. And it was also because obviously we are a Victorian home. We just brought in like Victorian side tables. I tried to use a lot of my beautiful lamp bases that are like carved metal and other things, but I put a super modern shade on it. We used to have fringy, crazy shades on them. And so that gives a different kind of feel. But if you just put a modern, drum shade on it, it looks beautiful. You're just noticing the carving. And one of the things that Randy had said early on, which totally has happened, all the guests comment on it. He's like, look, once you get rid of all the colors, the jewel tones and all the flowers, all your beautiful architecture is going to pop because we have our original windows, our original doors, all our original trims. And that's what people notice now. When you walk in, you're not noticing the 19 colors of burgundy wallpaper. You're going, oh, wow, look at the trim. Look at the windows. Look at this feature. Look at that feature. And the same thing has happened in the bedrooms where it really pops. And if you just have that little tiny, like a nightstand, that's that dark furniture, it doesn't take away from the modern. It just gives it a little feeling of Victorian.
Interesting. Good quote about the feel thing, the Maya Angelou quote.
Yeah, that's been the biggest thing for me, is just to really think about, how am I making the guest feel when they get here? And that, again, that's not something I can cut, weigh, and measure. It's something that you constantly have to be working on, particularly at the times when maybe I'm not feeling so great. I just said I have to work 7 days a week, and nobody cares. Nobody cares if I'm tired. Nobody cares if I have a headache. No one cares. I have to figure out how to manage all of that and still be saying, I want you to come in here. I want you to feel welcome. I want you to be having a good experience here.
Luckily, if you decorate the right way, it doesn't have anything to do with your feelings that day or any day. Right? It's consistent, hopefully.
Yes. And that goes with the selling, though, that when people were seeing the pictures, they were very interested in coming. And people said that. People said that 100 times to us, like, oh my goodness, wow, we saw your pictures. And of course, the price point was huge as well. And they're like, we saw that you were the same price as whatever fill-in medium range chain hotel. So we thought, wow, we're going to try this. So we got a lot of new people that never have stayed in a bed and breakfast before because they thought this looked interesting. So we didn't have any reason not to try it.
No, that's awesome. That's what it's all about, for sure, differentiating. So, Matt, how are we doing here? Are we ready to bring it home here?
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah. Great discussion here. Rita, appreciate all of your insights here. And before we sign off today, anything else to add or anything we may have missed?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
So, Matt, you know what? One thing that we haven't thought of, because we probably haven't interviewed an innkeeper for a while, is we typically have our innkeeper questions. I don't remember what they are because it's been a little while, but one of the main ones was really about demographics. So in terms of, this is we had a handful of trendy or trend type questions, right? To just get a feel for it, where things might be heading whenever we interview an innkeeper. And like one had to do with really the demographics. And I think it was an age range. Like, how would you break out percentages of your guests, like 40 or younger, 40 to 60, and then 60 and over, percentage wise? And how would you break that out?
I would say I'm getting the biggest percentage, at least 50% of that 40 to 60 range. I would say easily that's 50%. I've been seeing more of the over 60s. Not really sure why. I'm not exactly sure how that's going, but I've been seeing a lot of over 60 guests this summer. So I'd say that's probably like 30%. And then I'm not seeing as many young people as I would like to. I'm seeing less young people lately. For a while there, I was seeing more of, like the millennials. So I'd say maybe that's like 15 to 20%.
And so trend wise, you were seeing more millennials before, but now you're not?
Yes. I don't know what accounts for that, but I am seeing a lot of older, over 60 guests. But at the same time, I will say, because of the change in our showers and we have more accessible showers, that's not as much of an issue anymore. We only have one first floor room, but we're looking at adding an 8th room that's also going to be a first floor room because that's how well it's going. I mean, we don't have any reason not to at this point. So that's where our expansion is heading towards.
You eventually have to put some trailers on the property, I'd say.
Well, actually, we're looking at converting that 5th floor to long-term rentals because I've had so many people call and say, can I stay there for a month? Can I stay there for 3 months? I'm like, I don't have that kind of model, but if I get 4 people that call me in one day and ask me for long-term rentals, I said to my husband, we need to start looking at figuring this out. So I think we're looking at doing something to the 3rd floor because we don't need all the space up there. So we are looking at cutting it into 2 one-bedroom apartments. So
so all 7 rooms are on the 1st or 2nd floor?
Yes.
So that 3rd floor is not being used?
Third floor, yeah, we have our own 3-bedroom apartment. As I said, we still have 6 kids, but they're all grown up and moved out. I mean, that's what happens. That's the goal. And so the third floor is still 3 bedrooms, 2,000 square feet. So we're looking at some point cutting it into 2 1-bedroom apartments.
I bet you that your kids have strong legs.
They
Running
do.
up and down the steps all the
They
time.
do. Yeah, they do. And I do as well. So.
Yeah, I was going to say you too. So I'm sorry, Matt. All right.
No.
Anything else you got, Matt?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. Just again, Rita, any last parting shots here before we take this out?
No, that's it. I just interested on the demographic, and I would love to see more younger people. So,
All right, perfect. Well, this concludes this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Rita Sleys, who's the owner and operator of the Rosemont Inn Bed Breakfast. And as you heard, she was kind enough to share insights into how she transformed herself and her overall business, and really the impact this has had on the bottom line of her property. And our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest App, which helps you to improve your guest day without adding more to your day. Learn more at frictionlessguest.com. And Rita and Steve, thank you so much for your time today.
thank you.
Thanks, Rita. We really appreciate your time.
I appreciate the opportunity.